The shop gallery Glebe. I can only describe this place as an art gallery for artists by artists. When you exhibit at the shop gallery, you really are part of the family and part of the structure of this place, with their really lovely hospitality and their commitment to marketing your works. So here at Emma Sputnik Curates, I've got works in the front window. This particular two are a set created in a housing situation where I met my current flatmate. We were living in an unsuitable circumstance, but we pulled together and moved out of that place, creating a better life for ourselves. But these portraits were completed in the last few months of our time living there, which wasn't a pleasant time, but we did make the best of it. This drawing is the avant-garde work in the style of German Expressionism of the 1930s. It's an era that holds a lot of intrigue for me in many, many ways. Portraits of clowns here. On the left we have Bobo. He was a famous clown in Adelaide in the 1960s and a star of children's TV. On the right we have Marcel Marceau. They're both a contrast of two different styles of entertainment. Bobo is what could be described as garish and grotesque. Marcel Marceau was an intriguing artist on many levels, a true master of humanity, which he expressed through acting. A small work here about the perils of going to a party on a school night, and my poster here, which will be filed in the shop gallery archive. Again, the owners of this gallery really make it a pleasant experience on every level. This painting here is about the value of giving up a fight and knowing when to lay down your guns and simply take rest, to really eliminate conflict in life and bring in what is lovely and satisfying. Acrylic on canvas here. This piece is about holding resistance against situations which may not be pleasant, but you do have to go through lots of trials, necessary and unnecessary in life. This one here is about remaining yourself in the face of those trials. Speaking of trials, I've moved around many, many places, times, houses in my existence. This work indicates the sort of stress that comes from having an unstable living situation and the powerlessness that comes from continually moving. But with every move there is a change as well and a gaining of experience. So it's not all bad, but it does just wind up to be awful every single time a move is required. This work here is simply about remaining still, positive, serene, and keeping on going in a less than ideal situation. That series of paintings were painted in the same year, which is quite indicative of how that year was for me. Signs of love. We start with things falling on our head. We might end up humping, which leads to one of two outcomes: having kids or crashing and burning off the road of life. One thing leads to another usually. An etching here called Silence. It's really about the refreshing, mind-opening joy of being in silence and how nice it is to simply allow one's mind to expand and be free without constant noise dribbling into or out of one's head. Dogs of War. This piece has been the display icon for this exhibition. It honestly is the favourite image that I've ever painted or manufactured in my life. The inspiration came to me from an impulse. I really didn't plan to draw it in any way, but as I kept going with that work, it just became more and more powerful. I still can't really describe much about it apart from I really like it and I'm happy with it, how it turned out. This piece is again about rest and niceness, and about how one can rest and enjoy lovely things And take the time to do so, and time is very apparent in that one, as it's a bunch of roses that were found fresh and then dried, and then I've painted those dried roses in oil painting, trying to capture the crispiness of the leaves and the shriveling of the stems using oil paint as a medium. This also is an oil painting here. It's about shock and horror at horrifying things. I have seen a few horrifying things in my life. I don't like to hang on to those memories, but this painting was a very powerful, cathartic piece on the choice we have to remain affected or to keep moving on after those situations. This big piece here was generated during a relationship when two people interested in the same things came together. The relationship didn't last, but what did endure in my world was a real love for painting the textures of fabrics and various real-life things. I really found an abject joy in calculating the changing of the light and the various textures there and how to capture those in acrylic paint in this instance. Here we have a traditional still life display in monochrome. I was really pleased to do this as one of my first pieces in art school. It really brought a love of painting to life in me, and the joy in using smeary, smushy paint to render images. Doesn't need to be really said, I guess, but these are all different textured items, so they're incredibly challenging to paint, and it was a real pleasure to find a way to paint them to solve that problem using just black and white. Life drawing is one of the traditional forms of art. I've really enjoyed taking an abstract and expressionistic approach to how I do life drawing, with finding the planes and the forms of the body, but really toying around with the actual shape that's there. A photo book there, a drawing there, watercolour there. Some leather craft items that I created in 2010-ish when I was working in a tannery, and I was creating leather items to sell on the weekends at the markets. So I made maybe 30 or 40 of those bags. Those are the last two remaining from that era. A portrait completed 1 year ago after I received a rental increase that was going to drive me out of a really nice inner city living situation and back into a challenging suburban situation. It is a transformation or a completion of, an update on this picture here, which was done 10 years ago. I decided to replicate that, but painting myself more mature, which I certainly am. I'm 10 years older, but also to display the weathering experience that constant moving has. I really can't actually articulate how painful it is to move house, but we have to do it. A self-portrait on the day Lemmy Kilmister died. He's one of my favourite musicians in the entire world. The day that Lemmy died was a very upsetting one in my world, so why not sit outside and paint a portrait, which didn't ever get finished. I remember being quite stressed and not in the painting zone that day, but I actually really like it half finished. It sort of, to me, it encapsulates the feeling of when somebody does pass away, your relationship is half finished, even if they are a rock star that you'd ever know. So this portrait here is a passed away rock star. His name is Anthony Matty Matters, very prominent in the Sydney punk scene, a wonderful leader and thinker. He very sadly died, and that there is a portrait of him completed or started before a house move. Not yet completed, but using some vague pictures that were left behind of him, which didn't have any detail as to his face. The portrait there is made up of about half a dozen different photographs of Matty in action, trying to create quite a formalised look to a portrait of him. It's a grey day These abstract works really, excuse me, are designed to be capturing the optimism of life, even when it is challenging, to keep on at it, to rise up and onwards and forget about the challenges and move on to what's bright, fun and good. Bright, fun and good here. Geometric abstraction onto fabric samples. It's a work created for installation using discarded products from my day-to-day workplace. I just had a really good time graffitiing expensive fabric with a sewing machine. That's the real antithesis of what I do in my job, creating beautiful things with very strict parameters in order to retain quality for the customers. Here I didn't have to worry about quality. I could just go wild making primal shapes. Damocles saw. It's about having to choose direction when there's not many directions which seem clear of which way to go. It is designed to be a juxtaposition of chaos versus a very strict order, and the symbolism of arrows and parallel lines really as direction and clarity, but here they're all broken up and impossibly displayed, yet somehow still holding together as a contiguous work. The Shattering of Foundational Truths is an abstracted work which simply illustrates the despair, the broken despair of when you find out something isn't true and someone has manufactured and told lies for their retention of a certain image about themselves, and for you to fall over and blunder into as a fool. So it leaves me speechless when people do that, yet the boomerang shape in the center of that is simply about the endurance required to reconcile those type of situations and simply keep living, and preferably do better than people like that. Dits and Ticks. It's a piece which I would love to have animated. I saw it animated and moving like a gear or a chain. Obviously I can't paint in animation, but it is all about the opposition or conflict of genders, about how we're all the same structure and fibre and materials, yet there seems to be this constant conflict and undercurrent of hostility that goes between various genders. The fact that there's division and disjointment, and yet still this breaching of those circumstances by the golden thread of life. If more people could figure out how to get on with each other and less ways to make each other annoyed or uncomfortable, I think the world will be a better place. And ego, everybody's got one. How do we use them? This piece was originally the pink, green and blue that's visible behind the ego statement. I created that for a competitive purpose, which really drove myself mad for a short period of time. After that situation came to a bitter end, I had the insight that I'd been so grotesquely egotistical, and the cost of that had been an immense disruption to my peace and sanity. I was compelled to overpaint the original image with something that brought a truth to that painting at last, which was it wasn't an exercise that I had some hopes pinned on. I was actually being an egomaniac, and there is the proof of it. Morally upright. That painting there is about the conflict and divide of having to choose right from wrong, of being in circumstances where there's many, many choices and many values being torn in different directions, yet which one do you take? Which path do you choose? And who do you put your faith in? Those questions are so much to answer at times that I painted this simply as an illustration and to a degree a recognition of those challenges. The painting itself is broken up and torn in so many directions, yet it's retained a honesty to it and a very strong geometric architectural form. Here's a piece that was one of the final pieces created in art school, when the challenges of institutional shaping were really getting to me. They were really eating me up. I was trying to find the cleanest line work based on a Muybridge photographic series about illustrating bucking horses, as I'd intended on doing a big shadowy installation about bucking horses. Yet when the teachers pressured me over that work for the last time really within that institution, I just got so angry I trashed the work. And then in a moment of hindsight later, I drew these cheesy peace signs over it to sort of shove it back into their face and say, well, here, you know, I've made my work, I believed in it, I trashed it, and now I finished it off with some really god-awfully cheesy details that illustrated at the time that I wasn't interested in receiving their criticism. I really was only interested in doing artwork, but if they wanted a final piece that was theirs, they could really just have it and some. So there we have the mini tour of this exhibition, Emma Sputnik Curates X Years. It's really been a phenomenal experience to put together 10 years of my own works, to see everything in one place, to bring a lot of value out of the experience of going to art school. It seems to come and go and you end up with these paintings left behind. And that's how I felt about it. Yet to see all these paintings, drawings, illustrations under one roof in somewhat of a chronological form has really just been amazing. And to receive the recognition and feedback from my peers, friends and family has been phenomenal as well. So all I can say is thank you ardently to every person who's ever believed in me in life and helped me along the way. It really has been an amazing experience in life, and for that I'm so grateful to be turning 40 this year and to be surrounded by such wonderful people, places and times which have come to support my vision and the way that I see the world, despite so many challenges on so many fronts. So thanks everyone, this is the end. Bye now.